Today marks the North American anniversary of Mega Man. I celebrated Mega Man about 5 years ago for his 25th, and instead of retreading old ground, I decided to instead focus on the spin-off games for this, the 30th anniversary retrospective. So let's begin with the very first console spin-off, Wily and Wright No Rock Board, That's Paradise, which released for the Famicom in Japan in 1993. Now this may look familiar to those that have played Itadaki Street or Mario Party. Essentially you're going around a Monopoly board of sorts, buying property. If your full lands on that property, then you get to collect some money from them unless they want to have a little bit of a battle. There's some kind of mini games, not so much, but it's, you know, it's that based on Mega Man, but you're not really playing as Mega Man. You have all the doctors essentially. It's kind of a weird first spin-off for consoles, I know, but Japan did love having board games and board-like games on the Famicom. Anyway, let's move on to something more exciting in terms of spin-offs, with of course the best spin-off with Mega Man X. Now this premiered for the Super Nintendo in 1994 for North America. It is essentially not so much a spin-off as it is the spiritual successor to Mega Man. It takes place far in the future, new Mega Man X, who is basically fighting more robot masters in a way, but it's so fantastic because it just upgraded everything that was Mega Man. It gave you upgrades like dash boots and a helmet that lets you break through stuff. It gave you kind of a sense of progression. All the powers you get can be charged up, some for even platforming purposes. There's tons of secrets in here. It still looks and sounds fantastic. It's just my favorite Mega Man, and it did a lot of good balancing issues too that plagued the other Mega Man games too. It is the perfect successor to Mega Man, and I could really go on and talk about Mega Man X for a long time, but I'll save that for its own little retrospective. For now, let's move on to a not so stellar spin-off with Mega Man Soccer, which also released the same year for the Super Nintendo in 1994, again for North America. And it is exactly as it sounds. It's Mega Man, it's all the Mega Man 1 through 6 bosses and enemy sprites and beloved characters in quotes facing off in little soccer arenas. It's an okay soccer game. It's better than playing something like FIFA, which I don't even know when that even existed. I don't know when that started, if that was around for the Super Nintendo. But regardless of which, it's not as cool and powerful as, you know, maybe something along the lines of Mario Strikers, their spin-off soccer games. It's kind of subdued actually for a Mega Man title, but hey, weird spin-offs are great, I suppose. Up next we have Mega Man The Power Battle, which released in arcades for North America in 1995. And this is basically a fighting game series. There's actually quite a few of these. The first one lets you play as Mega Man, Proto Man, and Mega Man Base, and you got to go through stages and bosses from Mega Man 1 through Mega Man 7. And it's not like a fighting game like a Street Fighter or something like that. You're actually using your traditional weapons, i.e. the Mega Busters, and you're just fighting long lines of bosses. For a fighting game, it is interesting. It's more like a boss rush mode than anything else, and it does look and sound good for an arcade game, you know, it's better than soccer, that's for sure. But there's not that much nuance to it either. Next, we have Mega Man Battle and Chase, which released for the PS1 in 1997 in Japan. So of course it was actually Rockman, Battle and Chase, but whatever. Anyway, it is a Mario Kart clone if we want to demote it to its base form, but you can play as Mega Man or Roll Proto Man, and a lot of actually the bosses, they all have their cars. It's not really about power-ups, which again is strange. Why would you have a spin-off with Mega Man being it and not have power-ups like Mario Kart? It's like they are trying to not be exactly Mario Kart, but they pretty much are in terms of wackiness, but no power-ups? that just seems a little strange. But it does control well. It is kind of weird how it pretty much is like a clone of Mario Kart, because you have a little screen on the bottom that's just like the Super Nintendo Mario Kart, where you see everything that's going on in a little mini-map. It's kind of strange in how much they do take from Mario Kart and how much they kind of throw out the window, i.e. they use the bad parts and they skip the good parts. Perhaps I spoke a little bit too soon when I was talking about my favorite Mega Man spin-off, because of course we have Mega Man Legends, which released in 1998 for the PS1, again in North America. Now, if you've watched any of my videos or read any of my content, articles, reviews, whatever, I've been dying for Mega Man Legends for a very long time. That is to say, Mega Man Legends 3 or any kind of spin-off on Mega Man Legends. I adore it so much. There's just so much to talk about. It still looks gorgeous on the PS1. Just those colored sprites, just with the anime aesthetic, it's so good. The story's great. It's Mega Man Trigger, and you're basically like a hunter of crystals, and you're fighting sky pirates. And it's kind of, I guess, a little bit like Zelda. You're going through dungeons, not so much about puzzles. You're just blasting fools away. You can upgrade Mega Man. It really is great. I just love it to death. Sure, maybe some of the controls, like the camera movement, is a little bit outdated, but so are a lot of the other classics, in quotes, when it comes to camera and movement, i.e. Ocarina of Time and Super Mario 64, if we're gonna get down again to the nitty-gritty of everything. But yeah, I adore this game. Again, I could gush for hours, but I'll save that for its own little video thing. Let's instead move to the not-so-stellar Mega Man Battle Network, which released in 2001 for North America for the GBA. I say not so stellar because, well, it is an interesting move. It's the first RPG with Mega Man. Essentially, you're a little boy, and kids have these little sprites that follow them around. They're basically little AI programs inside their little things. And viruses, i.e. the robot masters, are kind of taking over some parts. There's some evil geniuses at work. And it is a turn-based battle game. You get to move Mega Man X, E-X-E, because get it? You know, PCs. Funny jokes. But yeah, you get to move him around the battleground. You have different cards that let him have different power-ups, like a Mega Buster or a grenade or a sword. You move them around the battleground, you fight enemies. It is a cool idea, but it uses random battles. It is just kind of overlong. It's simplistic because it was aimed for children. So the story is, I do like the concept for an RPG with Mega Man, but just the execution just, left something to be desired. Now, another Game Boy Advance classic, Mega Man Zero, which released in North America in 2002. Basically, you could call this the next spiritual successor to Mega Man X, wherein we have Zero this time, not the Zero from that game. It's kind of a repurposed Zero in a very far-flung future, wherein this android has the power of Zero, and you're trying to save humanity from the brink of destruction. It's kind of a post-apocalypse in a way. Bad robots have essentially taken over, there's not that many good people left, and Zero is the last hope. Now, you do have a buster, but it's more like a pistol, but the coolest thing is, of course, you have the sword. And if you like hard games and you thought X was starting to be a little bit easier than original Mega Man, well, Mega Man Zero is a tough nut to crack. It is very, very hard. With the DS Collection remake, they actually added an easy mode so that it would appeal to other people. But yeah, it is really hard, but it still looks fantastic, especially for the Game Boy Advance. Again, great music. I don't have that much of a fondness for this as I do X, but it was a cool idea in order to branch off the series and to keep it going. Next, Mega Man X Command Mission, released for the PS2 and GameCube for North America in 2004. And it is a more traditional RPG in terms of Final Fantasy X. You could have 3 people in your party at a time. You got to see the list order of who was coming. You had special attacks. It was a cel-shaded aesthetic, so it was really cool, but again, at the time, it was a little bit archaic, especially if you go back to it nowadays. What with the pacing of the battles, it took a long time. Just the cutscenes were just a little bit too melodramatic, but I remember getting this for my birthday and being pretty psyched for it. I think, again, seeing Mega Man in a RPG was great, especially at the time when I was just, you know, eating every RPG that I can get my hands on, and I think it is worth some merit today. Next, we have the spiritual successor to Mega Man Zero with Mega Man ZX, released for the DS in 2006. Now this one you could choose to be a boy or a girl, and they both kind of look like Mega Man Trigger a little bit, but essentially you fuse your body with the armor of Mega Man Zero. So now it's kind of like Power Rangers. Mega Man has become Power Rangers. You equip the armor, again it's the same kind of structure. Both Zero and ZX are kind of actually Metroidvania anyway, and it did lighten up the humor and the difficulty a little bit, but for all intents and purposes, it is very much along the lines of Zero than anything else. And then of course, also for the DS, we have Mega Man Star Force, released on the DS in 2007, and this was the successor to Battle Network. And you're still fighting on a grid, but this time it's kind of a top-down back perspective, and it's okay. It also got very kind of overblown in terms of sequels and that stuff. And finally, we have Street Fighter X Mega Man, released for the PC in 2012 to coincide with the 25th anniversary of Mega Man. It started off as a fan-made PC game. Capcom saw it and decided to help put it out. That said, it's only been released on PC and in an unofficial capacity. It's not on Steam or anything like that. You can find it online still today, but it's not on any console, which is kind of crazy. You'd think that, you know, being Capcom, they'd want to release this thing as far as you could, and it is a neat little crossover, but it's also not that good. It feels like a fan game, which, you know, in terms of fan games, it's cool, but in terms of Mega Man games, does lack some sort of polish. And that's pretty much it. Of course, a lot of these spin-offs have sequels, but I wanted to just dip my toe into this spin-off collection. And yes, I did miss some too, but I wanted to stick to the games that I could grab a hold of for footage capture. I didn't want to go to Japan and track down some pinball stuff, or somehow find a phone that was able to play somewhere between 20 and 30 mobile games. It's an insane number. There's a lot of games out there rivaling the actual main entries of Mega Man. But anyway, thank you for joining me in this small little retrospective on Mega Man's 30th anniversary. Again, happy anniversary to you, Mega Man, and hopefully we see more of you and your spin-offs soon. My name is Tristan, and you've been watching ReActionExaminer, wherein I do my best to create interesting videos to entertain and educate you fine folks. Be sure to subscribe, that helped me out a lot. And if you want to check out more, be sure to read my work over on The Gamer, wherein I write fun little listicles. You can also drop by my personal website, GameJerk, wherein I post other articles and reviews. All these links and more can be found in the description below. Thanks, and see you all next time.